Good afternoon, buenas tardes, guten tag, dajahao. Thank you for joining us for the 4th Annual Multilingual Education Advocacy Day. My name is Erin Papa, and I'm the Director of the Coalition for Multilingual Rhode Island and an Assistant Professor of World Languages Education at Rhode Island College. The Coalition for Multilingual Rhode Island was formed in 2019 after our first Multilingual Education Advocacy Day here at the State House. For the past 2 years, after our first Advocacy Day, we've been virtual, so we're glad to be back here in the People's House today. Though this is our 4th annual Advocacy Day, this is also the 10th anniversary of the launch of the Rhode Island Roadmap to Language Excellence, a strategic plan for language education in our state, which was co-developed by leaders in government, business, and education, and launched here at the State House in 2012. Since then, we have developed a strong grassroots effort in support of multilingualism, but what we still need is a coordinated state-level support. We are pleased to have many state-level leaders joining us here today, alongside the many students, families, educators, and community members. Governor Dan McKee, Commissioner Angelica Infante-Green, Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea, Representative Morales, Senator Cano, Senator Chikon, who sends his regards. And we look forward to continuing to work with all of you to make Rhode Island a truly multilingual state. The Coalition for a Multilingual Rhode Island is a coalition, is a coalition of organizations and individual community members dedicated to creating a culturally sustaining public school system where all Rhode Island students have access to high-quality world language and dual language education programs and learn in multiple languages, spoken, signed, and classical, from pre-K to college. This includes all students, those who are considered multilingual learners or English learners by federal definition, those who do not qualify for multilingual learner services but are multilingual themselves, as well as students who grew up, like I did, speaking only English in North Kingstown. All Rhode Island students should begin learning additional languages in kindergarten or earlier and continue throughout their educational career. Having a truly multilingual Rhode Island would not only benefit students at the individual level, but would strengthen our state's social, economic, and educational well-being. I will now ask one of our hosts, Representative Morales, to say a few words.
From community members to advocates to educators, and most importantly, to our attentive students in the back. Thank you all again for joining us. As we collectively advocate for investments and policies centered around multilingual education, an issue for decades up until recently was not receiving the attention it deserved until advocates, students came together with the Coalition for Multilingual Education and demanded that the state make this a priority. So as we know, we have a growing economy that continuously evolves. We have a community that continues to thrive in diversity, especially within the urban core. So now it is more important than ever that our local and state government invest in multilingual education through budgetary investments, both in state and city budgets, course offerings, the curriculum, and policies that empower our multilingual learners to grow and develop. So for the second consecutive year, I am proud to sponsor legislation that would formally recognize the Seal of Biliteracy, both the gold seal and the silver seal, in a formal manner that would ensure that our students who have demonstrated proficiency in English and another world language through a rigorous written and verbal assessment are eligible to finally receive college credit as they prepare to graduate from high school and transition into higher education. All that said, this is a key example of policies that our government can implement in order to fully empower our multilingual learners and further encourage some of our students to also go on and pursue world language coursework themselves, where maybe previously that was not a thought that they and their families seriously considered. After all, awarding college credit for a skill such as being able to earn the Seal of Biliteracy would provide more access and more opportunity to college credits, therefore putting our students, specifically multilingual learners, on a pathway to higher education. For instance, students, particularly first-generation students and students of color, who enter higher education and already have secured a few coursework credits are more likely to stay enrolled, earn higher grades, experience less college debt, and ultimately graduate within 4 to 5 years. And I think we can all agree that that is our goal for our youth who decide to pursue higher education, that they have the opportunity to do so without accumulating such debt and be able to do it in a way that empowers themselves and their families social and economically. And I, for one, can attest to this based on lived experience, as I had the opportunity to enter college with several credits, which allowed me the opportunity to graduate with a bachelor's degree at 19, a master's degree at the age of 20, and stand before you as the youngest Latino state legislator in the country. And I want to be clear. As I say that, I want to be absolutely clear that it was my ability to speak fluent Spanish. It was my ability to take multilingual courses that afforded me this opportunity to earn some credits prior to going into higher education, because my talent and my skills were formally recognized. And that's what we're asking the state to do here. Because it's evident when an institution such as our government meaningfully invests in a thoughtful manner towards our multilingual learners and encourages all students, regardless of background, to pursue multilingual education, we are supporting our youth in ways that we cannot even imagine. Because the Coalition for Multilingual Education has gone out of their way to go directly into the classrooms to get to know our youth. And aside from some of the investments related to mental health, multilingual education is one of the most thoughtful investments that we could be making to our youth. And so for that, I want to be thankful and express my gratitude to all of our partners in government who have joined us, from the Rhode Island Department of Education to the governor's office to some of our fellow legislative leaders for coming together, because it is together as a community that Rhode Island will be the personification in the country of what it means to meaningfully invest in multilingual education. And this is the first step to doing so. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rep. Morales. And now we have Senator Sandra Cano here as our host from the Senate side to say a few words. Bienvenida.
Buenas tardes. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and happy 4th Annual Multilingual Education Advocacy Day. I wanted to make sure I start by recognizing the great work of this coalition that actually really inspired me to continue to do the work, and I am so excited to be with all of you here today. As you know, I'm originally from Colombia, so you can hear my accent, or you maybe don't hear my accent. I came here 20 years ago, and I am a product of being a student that was benefited from the English as a Second Language program. And I do know firsthand the importance of investing in our children and making sure that they have the competitive advantage of having multilingual education. I know that that is the path that I want for my little girl. We're already starting that at home. At home, we are very conscious that we need to speak to her in Spanish, and I know that she will be taken care of at school with English and hopefully another language, because that's the purpose of what we're doing here today. So as our society continues to change and become more interconnected and diverse, the need for our children to learn more than one language is becoming increasingly apparent. And through this educational initiative that we all support, our children will have the ability to communicate clearly and effectively with those who come from different backgrounds and situations, allowing compassion and empathy to flourish in the interaction our children will share with each other as they continue their educations and throughout their adult lives. The data is clear in that children who are exposed to more than one language at school reap enormous educational benefits, and it poses them for greater success later in life. Our children and their future deserve the opportunity to experience and learn from multilingual instruction, and I am grateful that we have so many advocates here today fighting to make sure that our children receive this crucial education opportunity. I want to say that as a chair of education in the Senate, I want to thank the leadership of the Senate and my colleagues that have been extremely supportive of continuing this work. And I want to recognize Commissioner for your work in the K-12 system. As a resident, very proud resident of Pawtucket, I know our city is been and continue to be a pioneer of dual language education, and I am extremely excited to be part of a community that is already exploring and investing in multilingual Rhode Island. But we need to do more, and that's why we have a lot of bills that we all need to advocate for and support, including so I am very, very proud to sponsor a funding formula bill that actually provides investment into our English as a second language learners and just give more money to districts to make sure that they have the best possible education that they deserve, because that is the best investment that we could do for our children. So I want to thank you all for your hard work and continued support to provide our children with the skills and knowledge that they need in order to be successful in our diverse and inclusive society, and will not rest until this novel dream becomes a reality. And I want to just conclude by saying, we've been working very closely together, but we just had a meeting with the commissioner and post-secondary commissioner because our friends from Taiwan wants to do an MOU to make sure that the students get the opportunity to explore, the language as well. So we have many opportunities. I had students from Colombia that have come to the district in Pawtucket, exchange programs with teachers and students. We just certainly need to do more. And this is the day that we advocate, celebrate, and continue the fight. So thank you, muchas gracias, que pasen un feliz día.
Muchas gracias, Senator Cano. I'd next like to just share some remarks from Senator Chikon, who's unwell and was scheduled to be here, but he wrote to extend his enthusiasm and support for continued multilingual programming in our state to benefit our students to enter the world market. And I'd like to thank Senator Chikon for his many years of advocacy for the World Language and Dual Language Immersion Act, which has helped us to create a position, a World Language Coordinator position at RIDE that is in the process right now. So that's coming soon. I also would like to welcome in the place of the governor, who is unable to come, we have Eva Mancuso and Rosa Di Castillo, who will speak on his behalf.
Thank you. Before you start. Excuse me. Why does it need two people to take the place of the governor? Well, because I intentionally wanted to address you, because yo soy un producto de una educación multilingüe. I'm the product of a multilingual class, and it was much easier for me to be successful because I have at least the base of another language to learn the English language here. So this piece on education is very important for the Governor Dan McKee. He wanted to be here, and he sends his regrets, but he has the full support for this movement because we understand the importance to be a product of the inclusion that we are talking about. And without language, we cannot be included. So, without any further ado, Eva Mancuso.
Thank you, Rosa. Good afternoon and welcome to the State House, and thank you for being here. I want to first recognize the Coalition for your advocacy for the young people here in Rhode Island. It's a really difficult but really noble mission to further the education of students, so thank you so much for all of your work. It's truly a skill to be multilingual. I myself grew up in an Italian home with Italian grandparents who only spoke Italian when they didn't want me to understand, so I quickly became a multi-language learner. It's more than being just about how we communicate in any language, right? It's knowing the culture and the customs. And it's really important to preserve these customs and your heritage, as I know, as I say, as a second-generation Italian young woman. And the advantage on the resumes for our students and in this global economy, when our workforce is multilingual and our economy is Rhode Island, it really benefits everyone. I am also proud, prior to being special advisor to the governor, I did serve as chair of the Board of Education. And I had this young woman testify before me when I took on the role of changing the tuition policy so that undocumented students could pay in-state tuition. And her name was Sandra Cano. And she was this really nervous young woman. And she said to me, "Miss Mancuso, you scare me. Senator Kano, you scare me, and I love your enthusiasm." So thank you all on behalf of what you're doing for our kids in Rhode Island, and Governor McKee is your partner in our journey to make all students in Rhode Island do the best that they possibly can. So on his behalf, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Angelica Infante-Green. Take it from
Sorry. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, come on, guys.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Let's do it again. No, let's do it again in a coordinated fashion, right? We're here to work collaboratively and coordinate. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you guys for being here today. This is a special topic and work. Oh, Capital TV, sorry. So we're so excited to be here and partner with all of you in this work because this is near and dear to my heart as a first-generation Latina, as a first-generation woman who is first-generation everything. Latina, college-goer, just you name it, that's me. And there aren't enough of us in the positions. And Rhode Island has the distinct opportunity of leading in this area. But we need to make the investments. All our kids should have the opportunity to speak more than one language. Every one of our kids should be exposed to multiple cultures. But then we have kids that have come here from other countries. We need to validate that. We need to put our multilingual learners front and center. They're part of the work that we all need to do. So we as a state have been advocating, and I will say that we've also advocated for the exact same thing we heard a few minutes ago, so that the colleges would accept the Seal of Biliteracy. That's important. We have to validate what kids know. The secondary regs. World languages are in the secondary regs. I can't tell you what kind of pushback we got there, but it is important. Nobody's talking about it anymore because it's the right thing to do. If we want to improve the economy of the state, if we want our multilingual learners to be successful, if we want to continue to grow what we know works, this is the place to invest. So we need to stand behind this coalition, beside this coalition, in all areas to make sure that it gets funded. It is extremely important. But what's also important is that we look at what the education looks like. So what we've done in the past 2 years is that we have a blueprint for multilingual learner success. That blueprint was created with a lot of you in this room. But not only did we do it with educators, we did it with families, we did it with students, and we did it with elected officials. Because we wanted everybody to understand the importance and the value that we place on multilingual learners. So we have the blueprint. Then we have the framework that goes along with it on how to actually implement the blueprint. That is our collective work. And I had the opportunity to meet with Secretary Cardona 2 weeks ago and share our blueprint. And he said it should be a national model. So what we need to do is show everybody that we mean business. That we're not just pushing it in the classrooms, but we're pushing it in every avenue that we have. So all our kids deserve the opportunity to learn another language. All our kids deserve the opportunity to keep their home language, to flourish in that language, and to use it to learn English. So I don't know how many of you know that you learn English faster if you use your home language. That is a fact. You don't take away kids' home language. And you want to use that as a treasure for other kids to learn. So that's why we raised money to expand dual language programs across the state of Rhode Island. We have 5 districts now planning that to start our new programs. So it is important. We don't want to have to keep raising money, but we will, because we are committed, we're driven, we are partners, and we will not stop. Because it is extremely important, and we value the communities that exist here, and our kids cannot move forward. We learned during the pandemic how small the world is. And if we're not capitalizing on that opportunity that we have homegrown here in this state, we are missing the mark, guys. And I have to tell you, Rhode Island is going to lead in this area. And I know we're all going to keep pushing forward for all our children to be front and center. Muchas gracias, se lo agradezco mucho, and it is a gift that no one can take away from our kids. Thank you.
Next, we have 2 students from the URI International Engineering Program to share a bit of their experience, Sarah Hamadah Mohammed and Alec Boving.
Hola, me llamo Sara. Soy multilingüe, hablo español, árabe e inglés. Assalamu alaikum, أنا اسمي سارة, أنا بتكلم عربي, إسباني وإنجليزي. Hello, my name is Sarah Hamadah. I speak Arabic, English, and Spanish. Currently, I'm a junior at the University of Rhode Island, majoring in biomedical engineering and Spanish, and I learned Arabic because that is my first language, because both my parents are immigrants from the Middle East. I feel like multilingualism is very important. You're able to communicate with many groups of people and bring down that language barrier within the United States, which I feel like is very important. And when learning a language, you're also learning about the culture and the experiences of the people within that culture, which I think is very important, and everyone can learn from that type of experience from learning a language. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Hallo, mein Name ist Alec Boving. Ich studiere Deutsch bei der Universität Rhode Island. Ich bin ein deutscher Amerikaner. So hello, my name is Alec Boving. I study at the University of Rhode Island. Thank you. I'm a German American. At the University of Rhode Island, I study ocean engineering in German through the International Engineering Program. And in the fall, I will be traveling to Germany to spend a year there. My father is from Germany, and most of my family lives there. So being able to have the chance to go to Germany and spend a year, kind of connect with the other side of my family is really important to me. And I want to just thank, again, University of Rhode Island and the state of Rhode Island for this opportunity as well. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome Helena Folks to say a few words.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Helena Folks. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks to the Coalition for bringing us all together. Thank you for the students back there. Hats off to you. The number one topic for me is to make sure that Rhode Island is the best in this country in education, and I can't think of anything more important than making sure that our kids all have the opportunity to be multilingual learners. So throughout my career, I don't know if you know much about me, but I spent 25 years at CVS. I recruited so many families to Rhode Island, and too often I see them moving to Massachusetts for the public schools, and that's what I'd really like to change, and I'm so proud to be with all of you today. But I think the huge opportunity is to convert all our excitement to action. So 3 specific ideas that I think are really important in this effort to make sure that we're fixing our public schools is to fix the funding formula for multi-language learners, to invest in our dual language programs, and to pay our teachers for ESL certification. Today it can cost up to $10,000 out of their own pockets to get ESL certified. So we know these are huge opportunities for us. I'll put education first. And there are so many other places we need to invest across the state in before and after school, summer learning, teachers' assistants, all the things that we know really enrich our kids and make our state both serving our kids and the best economic engine we can have. So I can't think of anything more important than dual language programs and multilingual learners. I applaud all of you for the work that you're doing, and I'm honored to be part of this today. So thank you.
Thank you. And next, Dr. Luis Daniel Munoz.
Buenas tardes. I'm Dr. Luis Daniel Munoz, candidate for governor as well, also member of the state's Equity Council. Now, I grew up in Central Falls, Rhode Island, but one thing I wanted to share today is that I didn't always know Spanish. Coming from a Puerto Rican household, I used my hands a lot and I was very passionate, but I didn't really understand where it came from. It wasn't until I went to Puerto Rico where I discovered my culture, I discovered my language, and I discovered that the hands I used were built from generations of struggle that used those hands to fight for liberation. And I think one thing that we miss oftentimes is that by understanding languages, and when we say understanding cultures, what we're really doing is checking our own culture and our own understanding of why is it that our perspective, our biases are shaped in certain ways. Now, why do I say that? We talk about race groups, and yet why don't we use the term racialized, right? This was Silas Pinto, who works in the City Hall in Providence, that taught me that. If we understand the root of our languages, German and French coming together in this very ambiguous language of English, which politicians love because they can twist the words around, but if we can understand where it comes from, then maybe we can push back and challenge the words that we use. We're teaching my daughter Juliet English and Spanish at home. She speaks to me in English and her mother in Spanish. She's understanding 2 cultures in one. She uses her hands and she knows that they're used to push back when she needs to. We have Southeast Asian cultures that are losing their history in Rhode Island because we have not adequately invested in their ability to win back their language, to gain back their language. We have Cape Verdeans who were here since the time of the whalers, and our education systems do not have Cape Verdean taught in their school systems. We are not doing right by our students. Thank you to the legislators fighting for money, but we need programmatic changes with that money. It is not enough. I'm running for governor to do what no other governor has done. Fight for the people that no one else is fighting for. The languages that we're saying we want to learn about. The history behind the words. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Wujadat Balogun, who's a youth leader at Young Voices, as well as a student at Classical High School.
Hello, my name is Wujadat Balogun, and I'm a sophomore at Classical High School and a member of Young Voices. I was born in New York and moved to Nigeria when I was 5 and lived there for 4 years. Yoruba was my main language and was the main language that we spoke there, as well as some English. And living with a different language came naturally to me because once I started speaking it more often, when I came back, I was just fluent as I was. A lot of adults around me were surprised about how fluent I was because they knew how hard it can be to pick up a new language. and keep it, especially when you're living in America. Being fluent in both languages allows me to have a different level of connection with both my African friends and family members who are also bilingual. I am a multilingual learner myself, and I know I'm treated differently from others. And I know how hard it can be to adjust to change, but family makes it better because you're all going through it together, and I am grateful for my experiences with people, places, and most importantly, my culture, because it is a part of me. Supporting multilingual learners is really important to me because I believe the unique experiences are frequently overlooked by our school system. Too often, our ability to read, write, speak in many different languages, sometimes at once, is seen as an obstacle to overcome, rather than a strength to be developed. Days like these are important to me because they remind me that we're fighting for future generations to have more than what we had. As an MLO student myself, I know that it can be a long time before multilingual learners can gain an equal footing in their own learning. We need our classrooms to understand and create opportunities for youth like me. We need to remove barriers so our multilingual learners have the necessary tools they need to succeed in their education. An inclusive education will create the next generation of leaders. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to welcome my own student from Rhode Island College, World Language Teacher Education candidate, Diana Henriquez Rodriguez, to say a couple of words.
Good afternoon. So, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Diana Henriquez. Good afternoon. My name is Diana Henriquez. I'm a current student at Rhode Island College, and this is my senior year, finally. And yeah, so the thing is that when I came to Rhode Island when I was 19 years old, I came here and I had to go back to high school and start 12th grade. And I didn't get the support that I was expecting from speaking another language. What was highlighted was the fact that I wasn't proficient enough to speak English. So I had to go to CCRI and take a lot of ESL classes. And I was feeling the fact that I could actually speak English pretty well. So I was trying to get out my ESL classes as soon as I could. And then I started regular credits, and it was like a really good achievement that I achieved. And the thing is that the best way I can advocate for multilingual education is by becoming a Spanish teacher that encourages learning different languages and provides rich content and meaningful content to students. So not only they continue to speak Spanish, but they also start learning new languages. And yes, so that's what I want to become a teacher. And I want to give my students the support that I was not able to get. Thank you.
Gracias, Diana. And next, I'd like to welcome Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea to say a few words.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Qué chévere se siente esto, huh? This is so wonderful. You know, for me, this is almost full circle. My first advocacy in this building, 28 years ago, was around fighting against the English-only movement that had taken hold in many state houses throughout our country. It was what moved me to figure out how to navigate this building and to speak my mind. And so, coming here today and seeing these numbers, I see great opportunity because we have come a long ways. We have a lot more to go. Now, as your Secretary of State, I've had the joy of moving from advocacy to implementation. And the truth is that we can make changes to the government that make it more accountable to the people it should be serving. And we see that with our election system, where we have made sure that all of the information is in multiple languages, right? And in my own Secretary of State website, the Google Translate works on a variety of languages, but the English has also been thought of to make it easier to understand and easier to translate. Putting stuff up on the web and then letting Google Translate do its work is not enough. You have to think about the user, and you have to think about whether or not they're going to understand that information in order to truly make government accessible. Fast forward, now I too am a candidate for governor, and I'm very excited about the possibilities. Now, I look at the list here of the advocacy of the coalitions, and I have a challenge that I will join you in. A lot of the groups there are nonprofit groups. What we need to see is for-profit companies, chambers of commerce, that also will partner with us to make Rhode Island a leader in seeing multilingualism as the true economic and educational asset that it is. That's the future that we need to have. We need to make sure that those 15,000 children that are now multilingual language learners have a system around them, have professional development of teachers and people that they can identify that will motivate them to be bilingual, así como soy yo. Porque las oportunidades que tengo yo hoy día son gracias al hecho de que yo soy multilingüe. Y yo estoy criando a mi familia siendo multilingüe también. The opportunities that I have, thank you. The opportunities that I have right now are thanks to the fact that I grew up multilingual, and it is something that I want to not only give to my children, but to all children in Rhode Island as well. It is where our economic advantage will be when we tap into the strength, the asset that is multilingualism in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call out Paige Clausius-Parks from Rhode Island Kids Count.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Erin. I'm Paige Clausius-Parks, a senior policy analyst at Rhode Island Kids Count, and we are proud members of the Coalition for a Multilingual Rhode Island. Today, I'll share some data with you around multilingual learners. Beginning with the school year of 2019-2020 school year. In that school year, 11% of all public school students were multilingual learners. The number of multilingual learners has nearly doubled in the last 10 years. And the school district with the highest percentages of multilingual learners are in Central Falls, Providence, Newport, and Pawtucket. In this same school year, multilingual learners spoke 98 different languages. That is so impressive. And as you have heard before, and it is true, being multilingual is an incredible asset to all of Rhode Island. Being multilingual is associated with increased economic and social opportunities and improved executive functioning skills, which helps to support academic success. Our multilingual students and our families are an asset. But as you've heard from our speakers and that you'll see from this data I'm about to present, we still have a lot of work to do in our state to support our students and to give them everything they need to be successful. These supports include instructions that draw on their cultural and language assets and engages them in rigorous academic instruction and provided highly qualified educators. Let's look at our educators first. Educators of color benefit all students, especially multilingual educators of color. Students of color demonstrate long-term academic achievement, including higher reading and math scores, decreased likelihood of dropping out of high school, increased likelihood of going to college, and increased social and emotional development in classes when they have diverse educators, especially multilingual educators of color. In October of 2019, 4% of our Rhode Island public school classroom teachers and instructional coaches held an active bilingual, dual language, or ESL certification. If we look at academic outcomes now, educators and researchers have long recognized the importance of reading proficiency by the end of third grade. Students who do not successfully reach this milestone will struggle in later grades and are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. In Rhode Island in 2021, our latest RICAS results showed that 12% of our current multilingual learners in the 3rd grade are meeting expectations in ELA, compared to 45% of non-English learners. In this same year, 6% of our 3rd graders who are currently multilingual learners are reading proficiency in math. So if we look at what grades are our multilingual learners, there are multilingual learners in every grade. However, we know that students are more likely to be multilingual learners in grades K through 3. In the 2019-2020 school year, 37% of all of our multilingual learners were in grades K through 3. And of the 14,000 kindergartners who were multilingual learners, 40% of them were enrolled in Providence Public Schools. 22% were in the other 3 core cities, which are Central Falls, Pawtucket, and Woonsocket, and 15% were in public charter schools. And as you've heard from our previous speakers, language learning is most effective and most efficient in the early childhood years, between birth and age 8. When provided with high-quality learning opportunities, young children will learn new languages faster and with more competence than older children and adults. High-quality bilingual education starting in the early grades, beginning in preschool, effectively promotes English language acquisition and proficiency while also building proficiency in that child's home language. This is so important. Dual language programs can improve English language proficiency, increase rates going to college, and improve economic opportunities. In the 2019-2020 school year, we have bilingual and dual language programs offered in Central Falls, Pawtucket, Providence, and South Kingston school districts, as well as at the Rhode Island School for the Deaf and the International Charter School. So many students, especially multilingual learners, face barriers to college enrollment and success. Improving access and exposure to advanced coursework, including AP courses and concurrent enrollment courses, can help decrease those barriers. Rhode Island has seen a tremendous growth in college and career readiness opportunities. However, we still see a large gap in college credit earned by language status. In the class of 2018, during that graduating class, 9% of multilingual learners for that graduating class, but only 3% of them participated in concurrent enrollment courses. That's compared to 24% of the general population. If you look at high school graduation rates, as we know, high school graduation, receiving a high school diploma is extremely important for economic mobility and stability in adulthood. In Rhode Island, the 4-year high school graduation rate for the class of 2020 was 84%. However, for multilingual learners, that graduation rate was 69%. And then, of course, that impacts immediately enrolling into college. So in the class of 2019, 67% of our graduates in that class in Rhode Island immediately enrolled in college. However, if you look at multilingual learners, only 44% of our multilingual learners immediately enrolled. So in conclusion, I know I have depressed you with all of those statistics, but we have to do something about this. This is the call to action. We must work together. We cannot accept this data. We need to make this better and to improve it together. Rhode Island Kids Count strongly supports investment to increase students' access to high-quality multilingual educators, dual language programs, and efforts that ensure equitable access to college credit earning opportunities. And we hope that you join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. And last but not least, I'm here to ask all of you to help us take action today. We have instructions for you on how to do this. If you're new, first time in the State House, anybody can do this advocacy. And thank you to the legislators who joined us in this room. Some of you may be their constituents. So we welcome you to please visit the coalition table right outside of this room, where you can get a little card that looks like this with instructions on how do you go and talk to your legislators. We have a couple of students there who can help you look up who your legislators are if you're not sure. And then you can try to go find them. We have a bit of time before the bell rings for them to go into session, at least 10 minutes. So you can go into the chambers and try to find your senator, your representative, tell them why multilingualism is important to you, make it personal, take a photo with them if you can, and post it to social media and tag Multilingual RI. And then join us in the coalition in our efforts. So go to multilingualri.org and you can sign up to join us there. But please do stop by the table, pick up some information, help us take action today. And thank you for all for being here.